Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
Single best idea. The single best idea is thank God for the weekend. What a week. I mean, starting with the economic data, the double barrel of CPI, retail sales. Retail sales were moldy. CPI was sort of disinflationary, and that led to a lot of tension in the interviews of Wednesday, Thursday, and this Friday. The team killed itself trying to bring you different opinions. Some of those opinions are outliers. In legitimate market economics right now, Lindsey Piegza is a legitimate outlier. She's not only saying this is a Fed that can't cut rates, she's saying there would be efficacy to the American economy for the Fed to raise rates. She said this strongly 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. We got an update on it. And the fold over into the asset class, into stocks, bonds, currencies, commodities. Look at copper, what it's doing right now, Dow 40,000. I started talking about Dow 50,000 today. I may be a little out front on that. But what's important here is within our economy and our political economy, you get the haves and the have-nots. And that's delineated into asset holders and non-asset holders. Lindsey Piegza of Stifel.
I think we continue to see a growing divide between the asset holders and the non-asset holders, because as long as the market continues to anticipate the Fed eventually cutting rates, the market eventually focused on this easing policy, that's going to continue to fuel these asset valuations in terms of the equity markets. And then from a housing market standpoint, which is the other sizable component of growing these asset valuations, well, that comes down to a simple supply and demand. And we came into this housing market cycle at a multi-year deficit. So just by the nature of household formation, population growth, massive flows of immigration, it's likely that we continue to see housing demand outpace supply, keeping prices elevated. And again, perpetuating that divide between asset holders and non-asset holders.
A huge debate, and of course, to the election. Thank you to Margaret Brennan of Face the Nation. Look for that on Bloomberg Radio Sunday afternoon. Margaret Brennan, I thought, was just lights out about the political angst that she'll speak about on the CBS television network on Face the Nation. Again, hear that on Bloomberg Radio on Sunday afternoon. Jack Fitzpatrick, I thought, was great out of Washington on the absolute surrealness and cacophony of your American politics. It was good to have in. And of course, we digressed today. Kevin Gordon showed up. Let me talk a little bit about Kevin Gordon. Kevin Gordon is newly minted. In fact, he's graduating today with, I believe, an MBA from New York University. Everybody who gets things done in this industry has a Kevin Gordon. Kevin Gordon works for Liz Ann Saunders at Charles Schwab. And, you see Liz Ann do all this stuff, and you're like, how does she find the time for it? Kevin Gordon does her world-class Twitter feed, all the charts, all the intellect, all the smartness. And, of course, we started in, in surveillance with the fact he slummed 4 years at Pepperdine on the West Coast. And we're talking about surfing between Pepperdine and Santa Clara. And, of course, you get Anthony Crescenzi in from PIMCO in the next interview. And the first question we said to Anthony, we said, in the old days, did Bill Gross Muhammad and you like surf on the wedge in Newport Beach? We migrated from there over to the bond market. He is the giant of short-term paper, Tony Crescenzi on yield.
It's like a nirvana for an active bond manager. It's like a global bond buffet. There's so much to do. Right. It hasn't been a global bond market in a long time because, as you said, interest rates were low, and they were low everywhere in the 2010s, near zero, pinned near zero. So there wasn't much to do. Now there's so many things moving around like butterflies. You simply take your net, try to find the good ones and put them in your collection. So we'd say that lower your fears and anxieties. First, I'd say there's 3 things not to do. 1, don't try to time the market. Yields are high. They look very good historically, very good versus expected inflation in the 2s and versus what's typical volatility. So I'd say, generally speaking, you want to be enamored by the bond market opportunities today and lock in today's interest rates. It's total return time. It's time to think about something beyond the yield, potential price gains. And that's what total return strategies are. And that could be, and I don't mean a fund, but I mean the idea of potential gains in prices is what you want, and to put the returns higher.
Tony Crescenzi of PIMCO. We didn't even have time to bring it up on the show today. It was such a blur. But I believe overnight, Bank of America published and really talked about price up, yield down is their call forward. Boy, is this a heated debate. I don't know where to begin other than we'll jump in Monday with further discussion of equities, bonds, currencies, and commodities. We are on Apple CarPlay, on Android Play, the Bloomberg Business app. It is free. It's real confusion on this, like you have to pay for Apple CarPlay. No, you don't. It's safer, it's better, and also free with the Bloomberg Business app. On YouTube, a lot of discussions about the streaming industry. Lucas Shaw came in. He's, look at his newsletter with Mark Gurman on Hollywood, on Apple, and all that. It's, again, free. Huge value add by Lucas Shaw with his weekly sort of Sunday rollout. I'm going to say it's a 6-page note, if you will, and hugely informative. But on YouTube, it's just simple. It's an experiment for us. Subscribe to Bloomberg Podcasts out on YouTube. Search Bloomberg Podcasts. You'll see us there. Our replay, 2 hours, 56 minutes. And, of course, a lot of the other stuff we're doing. And, everybody else is on. Bloomberg Daybreaks out there as well. Eric, is Nathan in Monday or is it a sabbatical? He's probably back in. It could be a 6-week sabbatical for Professor Hager doing Bloomberg Daybreak, and of course Carol and Tim in the afternoons as well. From New York City on a Friday on Apple Podcasts, single best idea.